To me, the Yu-Gi-Oh series is up there with Pokemon in terms of anime influence and the importance of the card game genre. For something that started off as a children's card game, over time, it's gotten slightly more complex. After watching the shows from about Season 1 through Arc 5, I started to notice around the time that I got to the 5D season that all of them have a recurring theme. A very dark season. Before I get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my new content, and let's shoot for 20 likes on this one. Leave a comment so we could get an algorithm, and also rest in peace to the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, Kazuki Takahashi, who passed away a few years ago. Recently, I finished watching all of the mainline Yu-Gi-Oh series. It does not include Season 0, and definitely does not include Yu-Gi-Oh 7s, because I haven't watched that at all. But I will be talking about each season in chronological order. Before that, I do want to go over some themes that the Yu-Gi-Oh series has as a title. First is that Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game, for those that don't know. There is a lot of dueling. The reason for this series' existence is that the main character of each show loves to duel. I believe the first season of each show was made with the intent of having casual watchers enjoy the main character's personalities along with the main cards that said characters used. The story, not so much. Konami, the company behind Yu-Gi-Oh, does attempt to push the ages 6 and up can play this game agenda to encourage that this is meant for anyone, essentially with the ability to read or with basic addition and subtraction skills, including children. So, hear me out, I'm getting to my point. Each series has a general storyline where the first season includes your introduction to the main character, their friends, and their reason for dueling. That nuance is to prepare you. It gives you an emotional attachment to these characters so that every duel has more meaning. Season 0 had Yugi literally killing niggas. It's funny how their version of toning it down after that season was to implement shadow duels. Duels that basically result in the loss of your life by taking your soul. There were also some funny moments with Kaiba, like him getting held at gunpoint and trying to use a card to stop him from seeing the pearly gates. But the original Yu-Gi-Oh with Yugimoto as the protagonist was always edgy. Any Bakura duel, Merrick duel, or Duel City Finals match was also an honorable mention. I still think my favorite dark moment in Season 1 was Yugi borderline killing Weevil Underwood. I think Season 3 is what made me make this video. In comes Professor Viper, an antagonist giving students the impression of a teacher, but has underlying intentions of bringing his adopted son back to life. Now, that doesn't sound wrong, but the way he tries to do this is by gathering duel energy by forcing the students to duel each other like slaves, wearing shock collars. Viper himself is under the impression that a duel spirit, Yubel, will assist him in this task. That same duel spirit, Yubel, was a card that Jaden used to own, but was shipped into space and wiped from Jaden's memory because the card itself contained evil energy. Long story short, Viper and Yubel collect this dual energy and end up opening a portal to a different dimension. This rift causes Jaden's friends we've met along the way to get lost in this rift, and the main hero complex he has called the Power of Friendship leads us down this course. Before we get there, Yubel kills Viper by making him walk off a cliff by showing him visions of his adopted son in front of him. It's like that scene from the animated Spider-Man where he's like, "No!" I won't stretch this part out long just because I have other series to get to, but just know when Jaden and friends get to this other world, they end up in life or death duels where, as the name implies, you duel and you lose, you will die in real life. Unlike the shadow games from the first series where technically you're losing your soul, and it's implied that you die, it's literally stated in GX, if you lose, you die here. This is why Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is actually my favorite out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, because from here until the end of the season, Jaden gets all of his character development from seeing all of his friends get bodied. 5Ds follows a similar direction to the first few series, but it starts fairly darker than what it transitions into. You get introduced to Yusei Fudo, who basically grew up on the streets and did a bit in prison, and he has dreams of being the best duelist in Satellite. Satellite is the city where this all takes place, by the way. Yusei's best friend, Jack Atlas, is currently the best duelist in Satellite. So Yusei basically wakes up motivated to take out his best friend every day. I mean, he's so locked in on this that he builds his own duel runner out of spare parts he can't afford, and scrap specifically. He was raised in the slums, so it's emphasized that his character is a poor, get it out the mud type guy. He uses cards like Junk Warrior and Scrap Dragon, so you can already tell where I'm going with this. Every duel that he has, it's the strength of our bond, or yeah, the first few cards may be trash, but they come together to make something greater. I had to break down his character because I didn't plan on going over the setting of the series too much. Satellite is basically broken into two, so just imagine a night and day visual between the rich side of town and the poor side of town. Yusei and Atlas duel, and they get told of a legend by the security commissioner Rex, of a legend where there will be a war between what are called signers and dark signers. Dark signers are people who are resurrected from the dead and follow the earthbound gods, which are also an archetype of cards in the franchise. The crazy part about this art was that the dark signers were all people close to the signers. Carly Carmine was a reporter who had a crush on Jack Atlas, but ended up dying trying to save Jack Atlas, then got revived by these earthbound gods and had to duel Jack. Yusei had to duel his best friend and former team member Kalen Kessler. The security commissioner even ended up being a dark signer himself. In short, the signers do end up winning with the power of friendship and the combination of all their powerful monsters, but the series is more generic in terms of the threats that approach the characters, but the narrative is overall pretty well written in my opinion. I put this one off for so long that this was actually the most recent one that I finished. Yes, I watched seasons 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, all before watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Yuma Tsukumo, the main character of this series, annoyed the hell out of me, I'm not gonna lie to you. The characters didn't make me feel anything, but just know its main character is your generic, I want to be the best duelist to ever duel archetype. Funny enough, the series gave me kind of Black Clover vibes. The voice actor's portrayal of the main character blew me to the point where it kind of turned me away from the show as a whole. That was the English dub version, by the way. The first season of the show, however, has a huge emphasis on how incompetent the main character is when it comes to dueling. The past 3 or 4 main characters all had some kind of spunk, style, and wit, you feel me? Even Jaden, who came across as the class clown of the former trilogy. To combat this, however, Yuma has the help of an alien called Astral to help him duel. The entire first season is Astral making up for Yuma's incompetence while collecting what are called number cards, which is this series' version of the new card game gimmick at the time. I feel like it was important to give some of that context because it gets a little complicated without it, but the shortest way I can explain this is that Yuma's dad is an explorer. He got backstabbed by one of his colleagues and ended up trapped in Astral World, the place where Astral is from. The first season is primarily about the gathering and collecting of these number cards so that each character can stack the power levels. The second season is using that said power gained from those cards to rescue Astral, who during this time gets locked up in Astral World prison because without him nor Yuma can use the ultimate power they get through fusing and dueling at the same time. Shark, one of the main characters highlighted to you during the entire first season, and best friend of Yuma, uncovers that he and others are former warriors whose original purpose in life was to destroy Astral World. Look, it gets complicated, but hear me out. The second season definitely got darker because just like GX, some of those characters that you grow attached to, like Shark, turn evil and eventually gain the ability to kill people off by dueling. It raises the stakes for each duel that you get from here on out. Even though I gave a lot of context, I'm going to stop there for the people that actually want to watch the ending of the series for themselves. Just know they get the ability to kill people. Every duel from there on has stakes raised. Arc 5 actually has a similar vibe to Zexal. This series starts off the same way as the others, but with the main character and his group of friends striving to be the best duelists they can be. Yeah, in this series people duel to put on a show. Yuya Sakaki, the main character of this series, goes to a school called Yusho Duel School, an academy where these kids learn summoning techniques in preparation for the pro dual-taning circuit. Akaba, who is basically this series' Seto Kaiba, is the head of Leo Corporation. Leo Corporation is the facility that spark what are called action duels, which give rise to these dual-tainers. Yuya, who has access to a magical pendant, grants him a unique summoning ability called pendulum summoning. He then starts to cause the Leo Corporation to put eyes on him. Yuya enters a tournament to become the best dual-tainer with one of his best friends, Yuzu, and Yuzu then gets attacked by characters from a different dimension, who both look like Yuya. Both characters then begin to tell Yuya that their world is broken up into 4 dimensions: Standard, Fusion, Synchro, and XZs, the gimmick from each of the previous series, and that they all lost their version of Yuzu while being at war with the Fusion dimension. So for this series, the first season literally starts off with this happy-go-lucky kid trying to be the best entertainer he can, only to get recruited into a dimensional war force called the Lancers, created by Akaba. It's an interesting start to a series for a 14-year-old child. I'm going to skip over the second season because it's basically a continuation of the Lancers going to different dimensions to stop those worlds from being destroyed. Yes, they're going to war. Children going to war. That is the plot of season 2. The third season is where the accumulation of all these plots come together. Akaba created the Lancers to go into these dimensions to find Yuya's father, who's located in the Fusion dimension, as well as Akaba's father, who we will call Professor from here on out. The Professor is actually the reason for all these dimensions existing in the first place. Thing is, Professor had a daughter named Rei, who, by process of elimination, is Akaba's sister. She was originally each of the Yuzus from each dimension combined. Rei then dueled this demonic entity called Zark, who is a combination of all of the Yuyas in each dimension, ended up creating each of the other dimensions. Shortly after learning this, the Lancers failed to stop the Professor from trying to fuse the dimensions together so that he can reincarnate Rei, but unfortunately he does not realize that fusing all of these dimensions would result in reincarnating Zark also. Each of the Lancers and some of Yuya's friends then attempt to duel Zark one by one, basically dying in the process. Look, children are dying. That is a common theme in Yu-Gi-Oh! Children are dying. In season 1, the show was about children going to war, death, and the end of all times. This was a series about dual-tainers, and we ended up going over war tropes, death, and dimensional destruction. I'm not going to go over the entire series again for people that want to hear or see the ending, but to wrap up, I made this video because I find it funny how this series that's marketed towards all ages has seasons where these dark themes go crazy. I do believe with the tone of the original artwork alone for cards that the show is meant to have dark themes, but I wanted to highlight the seasons in the anime that took these things to another level in my opinion. Lastly, I do want to say I genuinely enjoyed making this video, especially after watching each of these series. It just reminded me how much the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise holds a strong place in my heart. It's something I'm sure myself and many others have a strong attachment to. Again, if you made it this far in the video, I'd like to thank you for watching, leaving likes on my videos, helping my channel grow. If you'd like to help my channel grow even more, leave a comment saying what your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Moment is so we can hop in the YouTube algorithm. We're on the ground to 200 subs, and all of my social media is in the link description below. So if you want to get in touch with me, just reach out to me there. If not, just know I'll catch you in the next video. Appreciate y'all checking in. Till next time, peace.